Good morning. How are you guys today? Thank you for viewing with us and welcome to Bible class with Andre and Betty. We're continuing our studies from the book of Joshua, and today we'll be looking at the stones of memorial. There are two sets of stones, 12 stones, that is going to picture our redemption and the finished work of Christ. So as we look at the scriptures today, I pray that you all are listening and that you will respond based on what you hear on Facebook or YouTube. My email address is bjt1125@yahoo.com. So thank you all for being here, and let's get started. Joshua chapter 4. And it came to pass, when all the people were clean or completely passed over Jordan, that the Lord spake unto Joshua, saying, verse 2, take you 12 men out of the people, out of every tribe a man. And in Joshua chapter 3, verse 2 is where these 12 men are have been told. Joshua has been told to choose these 12 men. And in this chapter, we're going to find out why. Verse 3, and command ye them, saying, take ye hence out of the midst of Jordan, out of the place where the priest's feet stood firm, 12 stones, and ye shall carry them over with you and leave them in the lodging place where ye shall lodge this night. And in verse 20, we'll see that it says, and those 12 stones which they took out of Jordan did Joshua pitch or set up in Gilgal. And so that would be their lodging place. It's not named in chapter 4, their lodging place, but it will be Gilgal, which is their first seat of authority when they go into the promised land. And so verse 4 says, then Joshua called the 12 men, whom he, that is God, had prepared of the children of Israel, out of every tribe a man. So God didn't leave it up to Joshua to choose the 12 men. God chose them, and through God, Joshua spoke to the 12 men. Verse 5. And Joshua called the 12 men whom he had prepared. And verse 5 says, and Joshua said unto them, pass over before the ark of the Lord your God into the midst of Jordan, and take ye up every man of you a stone upon his shoulder, according unto the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. And then verse 6 says that this may be a sign, a memorial among you, that when your children ask their fathers in times to come, saying, what mean ye these stones? Then you shall say, what mean these stones? Then we'll see in verses 22, 23, and 24 why God told the 12 men to take these 12 stones and go take them to the place where they would encamp. And for us as believers in Christ is a picture of our deliverance out of sin into salvation unto God through his redemptive work. And so everything according to the book of Hebrews chapter 10 and other places in the Bible, all these things in the Old Testament are types and shadows of Jesus Christ and his redemptive work, hidden as a mystery in the Old Testament, but has now the truth of what these represent are revealed in this day of grace. So he wants them to take these 12 stones and set them up in Gilgal, and when their children ask what do these stones represent, then verse 22 tells us why. And so and verse 7, then ye shall answer them that the waters of Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it passed over Jordan, the ark passed over Jordan, the waters of Jordan were cut off, and these stones shall be a memorial unto the children of Israel forever. So even us who are believers in this day of grace, when we study the scriptures and when we live our daily lives, we should remember all the wonderful ways that God revealed himself in the Old Testament. So memory is a gift from God, and we are to use our memory gift to store up the things that God has taught us in the scriptures. Verse 8, and the children of Israel did so as Joshua commanded, and took up 12 stones out of the middle of the midst of Jordan, as the Lord spake unto Joshua, giving God the glory, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel, and carried them over with them unto the place where they lodged, and laid them down there. And again, that is at Gilgal. Verse 9. And Joshua set up 12 stones in the midst of Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priests which bear the ark of the covenant stood, and they are there unto this day. Verse 10, for the priests which bear the ark stood in the midst of Jordan until everything was finished that the Lord commanded Joshua to speak unto the people, according to all that Moses commanded Joshua. And the people hasted, hurried, and passed over. So the stones that Joshua took to leave in Jordan, in the midst of Jordan, the Jordan River, typifies Jesus and his finished work of redemption, whereas the 12 stones taken out of the river represent us being delivered out of darkness into his marvelous light when we are redeemed by the blood of the Lamb. And so the people hurried and passed over. Verse 11. And it came to pass, when all the people were clean passed over, that the ark of the Lord passed over, and the priest in the presence of the people. So the ark of God is symbolic of God's presence with them. And so when they were completely passed over, then they were instructed to the priest to bring the ark out of the river Jordan. And verse 12, and the children of Reuben and the children of Gad and half the tribe of Manasseh passed over armed before the children of Israel, as Moses spake unto them. So God is telling Joshua the same thing that he told Moses, and the same thing that he tells us through Christ in the New Testament. And so the tribes, the children of Reuben, Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh are the warriors that left the east side to cross Jordan with the children that of Judah, who would be on the west side of the Jordan River. They came over to conquer the land and help the other tribes to keep the other tribes, enabled them to possess the inheritance that God had given them. And so on the east side of the Jordan River at this time is Gad, Reuben, and the half tribe of Manasseh, which is 2.5 tribes. And on the west side would be 9.5 tribes to equal 12 tribes. And they would conquer the land. And once they have gotten their inheritance, then these 2.5 tribes will go back on the other side to the east side to enjoy their inheritance. Verse 13. About 40,000 prepared for the war passed over before the Lord unto the battle to the plains of Jericho. And First Chronicles chapter 5 verse 18 will tell us the total number. It was 44,760. Here it says about 40,000 prepared for war. But First Chronicles chapter 5 gives us the total number of the men of Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh that went over the Jordan into the promised land to help the 9.5 tribes receive their inheritance. Verse 14. On that day the Lord magnified Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and they feared him as they feared Moses all the days of his life. And so God told Joshua he would magnify him in the sight of the people in chapter 3, verse 7 of Joshua. Verse 15. And the Lord spake unto Joshua, saying, command the priests that bear the ark of the testimony, that they come up out of Jordan, where redemption is always out of, into, is up, out of, into salvation. And so Joshua is to command the priests to come up out of Jordan. Joshua therefore commanded the priests, saying, come ye up out of Jordan, verse 18. And it came to pass, when the priests that bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord will come up out of the midst of Jordan, and the soles of the priests' feet were lifted up unto the dry land, that the waters of Jordan returned unto their place, and flowed over all his banks, as they did before. So God opened the Red Sea, and then spoke to the Moses to stretch out his rod, and the waters came back and drowned Pharaoh and his army. And here, once the children of Israel are passed over, then the waters of the Jordan went back to the place they were and overflowed all its banks. And now we'll see the encampment of Israel at Gilgal. Verse 19. And the people came up out of of Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and encamped in Gilgal in the east border of Jericho. So now they've crossed the Jordan, and they're in their place of encampment. Verse 20. And those 12 stones which they took out of Jordan did Joshua pitch or set up in Gilgal, referring back to verse 3. Verse 21. And he spake unto the children of Israel, saying, when your children shall ask their fathers in time to come, saying, what mean these stones? Then, verse 22, ye shall let your children know, saying, Israel came over this Jordan on dry land. And that's what happened in verse 6. For the Lord your God dried up the waters of Jordan from before you until ye were passed over, as the Lord your God did to the Red Sea, which he dried up from before us until we were gone over, until we had passed over. And so God does not change, and he's not going to give us his will his will for us and take it back. He is a righteous and holy God. And so now he's doing through Joshua what he told Moses would happen to the children of Israel. That is, that they be delivered out of Egypt into the promised land. And the promised land for believers is our salvation, and we're seated together with him in heavenly places. And also, God wanted them to tell their children so that all the people of the earth, God's will is that all be saved and none lost. Verse 24, that all the people of the earth might know the hand of the Lord, that it is mighty, that ye might fear the Lord your God forever. So what God is doing in his word is making himself known unto the people of the world. And so he gave his life for the whole world, but only those who believe will get to enter the promised land. So thank you all for listening, and thank you all for your support and encouragement. We'll be back with you again next week, if the Lord wills. And so keep us in your prayers, and you all are in our prayers. So have a great day and a great week. Bye.